This is the LG PF-52A70, a 52-inch CRT rear projection television from about the year 2000. The previous owner bought it for the Olympics, the Sydney Olympics in 2000, so that gives us a good date to work on. The price was $4,000. I've heard reports $4.5, $3.5, so we'll say $4,000. There's the main power button, that big switch there. Again, 52 inches in size. There's the Fresnel, working like a mirror right now. A nice looking TV. Speakers are down the bottom. We'll open it up later and we'll see how we go inside. See how easy it is to disassemble and get right into the guts of it. Gallery. The home theatre gallery. The LGs of this range wear that badge. There's also a 60 inch and I think a 43 inch available with slight differences between one another, but generally the same. Now, I've roughed up the front here. I'm a rough operator to transport these things, and I think I've caused it to be scuffed along there. Our buttons, TV, AV, SSM, PSM, don't know what they are off the top of my head. Probably sound, picture menus or something like that. Menu, OK, volume, program up and down, another power on and off, and a standby light. Underneath this hatch, we've got an N.E.S video in, AV2 it is, composite left and right stereo ins. They've all gone loose. Look at that. I reckon it must have been the way I strapped it down in this truck. It's put a bit of pressure on the front here and loosened them up a bit. That's no good. Rough operator I am. Moving around to the back. It's got a bit of width to it. It's going to be less than 75 centimeters thick because it will go through a doorway sidewards. I guess it weighs around 100 kilos. LG's manuals are very bland or generic on sizing, weights and dimensions, unfortunately. Let's move back a bit to get the whole thing down to the bottom. There's our label. The details, made in the Republic of Korea. And the all-important back connectors, S-video in and composite in on the AV1. There's an AV out. And the all-important Scart, that's what it's all about. Let's hope it displays RGB, that AV3 Scart socket. Of course, if it didn't have Scart, we probably wouldn't be watching this video right now. Moving on to the other side. Same deal, no power switch over here obviously. It is on wheels, that's why I've got that piece of wood down there to chock the back. We're on a sloping driveway and it would roll down. Doesn't appear to be necessarily on wheels because it nearly sits so flush to the ground. When you've got it on carpet you wouldn't know that it's on wheels. It looks like it's sitting directly in the carpet. And typical with a lot of rear projections, they've got the step. They've got that piece out the front there, maybe to give it a little bit of protection so you can't push it against a wall and hit the screen or anything like that. Let's get the back cover off. Right, the back's off. 3 different parts have come off to reveal the insides. Firstly, there's this big part with the mirror. And the mirror is not glass, it's more of a foil covered piece of foam or lightweight wood. That piece is pretty light. If that was like solid glass, that'd weigh way more. So they've gone the cheapo option here with a reflective foil covered material. Probably fair enough, but compared to that Sony RVP6010QM that I filmed a while back, that used a proper sheet of glass inside and would probably give better reflective qualities. Now there's the Fresnel, the big magnifying glass, and I've got to be careful because that's directly in the sun. And there are videos on YouTube of people burning stuff with these Fresnels because they have quite powerful magnification properties apparently. As far as some of the items concerning the optics are concerned, this is the first layer here. This is just a big sheet of plastic, acrylic or perspex or whatever it is. Might have a slight tint in it. That's what's on the outside. That's what you can touch when you touch the screen on the rear projection television. Then there's the Fresnel itself. the big magnifying glass. And that stuff's, it's fairly flexible, a bit more flexible than the first layer plastic from before, fairly weighty. And then finally here's the mirror that we got a glimpse of just a moment ago, and it actually works quite well, I must say. It's very lightweight compared to a glass mirror. Indeed, it's very light. This is interesting too, the company here, Mirror Light, AV projection grade, glassless mirrors. Made in the USA, must have had some strong patents on it to keep it within the USA back then. Made in the year 2000, that gives us a definitive date on the manufacture of the television. Here are our lenses. Geez, they look small compared to some of the projectors out there. And tiny little babies. Delta. And down to our chassis. Fairly big, 2 boards. Here we have the flyback. And then there's only one flyback, then it goes into that device there, that tripler. Goes in and 3 come out for each tube. A red tube, a green tube and a blue tube. Big power supply board. There on the side of the cabinet. And our tubes themselves, I can't really get close in on the labels, but they are Panasonic's. P16, 16 centimeters in size. There's not many different tube makers in this game, in the projection game, maybe 4. Panasonic's one of them, and they've equipped the LG with its tubes. There's our inputs again, a few boards there, wires there. Here it is, all the circuit boards taken out of the television, including the speakers. Here's the CRT assembly. This is the 3 of the CRTs in its metal frame. The lenses are still on the other side. We can see the tubes better now. I like how the labels are red, green and blue to signify which colour the tubes are. All Panasonic's again, P16. Let's go a bit further in this and take one out at least. There's one tube taken out of the assembly of the 3. 4 screws to get it out as is, and a few cables to unravel out of the big loom. You can see these tubes are pretty much secured in there with those big metal tabs there. There's our yoke, and if we tilt it forward we can see the lens, and that's most likely liquid cooled. There's going to be liquid inside that, so when I go to the next step and take it off, it's going to be very interesting because I've never done that before. We'll do that outside on some bricks because I think that liquid inside's pretty corrosive. I'll open this cap up on the side here and see if I can pour the liquid out through that. There's 3 screws holding this in. Oh, look, the liquid's coming out now. Need to go up just a few loosenings and that started to pour it out. Apparently you don't want to get it on circuit boards. Three screws, no gloves here. Oh, like a gasket of some sort. Shit, look at it, it's all coming out. Don't worry, this thing's not going back in the TV, so don't be too concerned about that. We're just having an experiment here. We'll pour all that out. Like an oily substance. Here's part of the lens assembly off, 4 screws to take that off. That's clear. And beneath it is that red. here. There we go. Look at that. Hey. So that's the mystery there. That's our red part of the lens assembly. I'm sure the phosphor inside the tube here is of the red type as well, and you can see the burn-in. Not sure if the camera is picking up that I can see, but it probably is. Get a bit of that. Oh shit, we're not making anything easier here, are we? I know you're probably having a hissy fit as a viewer, seeing that I'm desecrating this. Hang on, I'll go clean it. Don't worry, I'm sacrificing this one particular television, so don't stress about whether I'm doing things right or wrong. It's just for the cause, if you know what I mean. You can certainly see that burning there in the tube. There you go, eh? That is actually pure. It is flat, pretty much pure flat to the outside of the glass anyway. This is the matching LG remote for the rear projection television. 6710V00007W is the model number. If you're familiar with LG remotes, you've probably seen this remote before. Maybe not this specific one. It's got a different model number on the one you're used to. However, I think functionality is the same. Some of the buttons are labelled differently on this remote compared to direct view CRT versions of the remote I've seen, but functionality wise you should have exactly the same as each other. So in other words, if you are missing this remote, just get one from a regular LG TV and you should be right. This review is going to be quite different. Not only do we have the TV, but we have not one but two but three of the exact same model, exact same size, yet with different histories. Model 1 here, the one on the left, is probably the best one, has no burn-in and the brightest picture and the best convergence, whereas number 2 has a little bit of burn-in and number 3 has more burn-in. Again, I can confirm that the Scart does accept RGB, fortunately. There is a Nintendo GameCube connected to the television by a Scart RGB. It's running Artemio's 240p test suite, generating a black screen. This enables me to clearly show you an option in the picture menu, convergence. We can adjust red and blue here, not the green however. Green is what the red and the blue are centered on top of to give you overall white. Here you can see the reds moving up and down. I control that with the remote. I am quite a bit off angle, so I may not be able to see it perfectly and get it set perfectly, but you get the idea. And there's blue. Same deal, up and down, left and right. We can only just adjust convergence here like this. There's no advanced feature where we can go into the corners and do areas separately. When you've done, press OK and then the AV button and you're set. That's it. You can't really go wrong with the red, green and blue screens here on a rear projection, given that when red is active as it is, it's only the red tube inside the projector illuminating, and that red tube and the green tube and the blue tube have no aperture grille or shadow mask. So it's purely a red signal being generated right now without any other factors of green and blue in any way whatsoever being incorporated into it. Essentially they're turned off individually and one's turned on. Going to the grayscale now, my impression was when I first saw this television up against the other TVs, the other two here look more faded. However, this one seems to have a bit of a bluish tinge, and I seem to still agree with that initial impression when looking at the grayscale here. It looks a little bit blue, so I think the colours could be adjusted to be a bit more grey rather than a tinge of blue in there. And that's just my impression looking at it with my eyes. Our grid's pretty square. It has some kinks in it. A little misconverged in the corners, much like a direct view CRT. Not as good as a Hitachi as we've seen in the past, and that probably goes for all aspects in comparison to it. You can also notice that the top left corner is not square. PAL N.E.S with duck hunt, gun test. So far so good. We need the ducks near the edge of the screen, the true test. That's all right. Up the top, come on, get up there. That's it. Perfect. Pass. This time, Sega Saturn, NTSC, via S-Video, Die Hard Trilogy, the airport stage, which uses the light gun. Takes a little while to get going, to get the enemies on screen. Graphics are rather choppy. Should have used the Virtua Cop engine. Still, they had a go at it. They had a crack. Good music on this stage. The one thing about this game is it's probably not the best test because there haven't been many targets down low, down at the bottom of the screen, where I'm starting to see a trend of difficulty for the gun to pick up the screen at the bottom, but thus far it's been fine. I rated it a pass. Not actually that bad of a game at all. Good. As a bonus, House of the Dead 3 on the original Xbox. This is TV 2, and there is burn-in, widescreen burn-in, where that emoji is pointing to. From downwards there, it's darker, and upwards it's a bit lighter in colour. It's not particularly noticeable on red. It's most noticeable probably on the widescreen and the green screen. Here's an example of the green. You might be able to see it where it's a bit lighter in colour above. Then we move on to blue. Again, it's a little bit noticeable. It's not easy to see, but it's there. And back to white finally. TV3 has the most substantial burn. Very noticeable, as you can see on screen where the hand's pointing, and the same at the bottom of the screen. Moving to the colour red. Not particularly noticeable on red. Similar to TV2. Couldn't really tell with the colour red. Moving to the colour green. Very noticeable. The tube with the most noticeable burn in. The blue tube in this set is also fairly affected as well, as you can see, and if we move back to white you can clearly see the burn in. On TV1, blue is the most dominant, followed by green, then red. This particular TV probably has the strongest blue of the whole three. Number 2 shows the same hierarchy, blue perhaps a little weaker in this example. Number 3 shows blue slightly out ahead. Red seems to have tapered off more so in this one. We have Marvel vs. Capcom 2 running on an Xbox, an OG Xbox via Scart RGB. To conclude, I'd still take the Hitachi that I reviewed. Click on the link above to see that. It's sharper, brighter, better convergence, better geometry. Mind you, it's 6 years younger, so what do you expect? This is the luck of the draw when you get rear projections, or direct view CRTs for that matter. However, to find a rear projection television with Scart
is not common, is not easy, so you've got to take that into account. You might be fortunate to have an LG with low hours, so give it a try before you knock it back. Watch out for burn-in and give it a go. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for more videos, more rear projection videos in the future.